lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop.
Boom, boom, boom.
Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, lolly.
Hi there, my friends. Does anybody else feel silly? Well, we should. Welcome back to the Gormon Productions Wrestling Podcast. And today, I never wanted to make this podcast into a place to gripe and complain, but I really got to get this off my chest. Just do it now while its topic's still fresh, and talking about the litany of championship belts that we suddenly have between Raw and SmackDown, and why I don't think it's the right decision. Usually I like to be a little bit down the middle and to be able to see the pros and cons of each, but I'll be honest with you, I have yet to see one pro for any of these new championships, and I'm going to explain why I feel that way. So come along with me. It won't be all doom and gloom, but we'll have some fun, and let's count it down. All right, number 5. It's a little bit of silly business, if I do say so myself. These things look silly. I mean, I've heard the new Universal Championship belt described as the Inside Out Man title, as the Power Rangers title, and that's exactly what it looks like. I mean, at first glance, when I first saw it at SummerSlam, I didn't think it looked bad. I thought that it looked interesting, definitely new, but then it just kind of dawned on me, like, that red is just because it's Raw, and there's nothing about this title that I think I like or that really anybody else likes. And you could argue that, yeah, it fits Finn Balor perfectly, and that's who they put the championship on first. But you got to think long term with what was supposed to be a very prestigious title. I don't think it's going to look good on Rollins. I don't think it's going to look good on Kevin Owens. I don't think it's going to look good on anybody. I mean, you would never put The Undertaker or The Rock or Stone Cold or Brock Lesnar with a championship like that. It looks like a fruit roll-up. And quite frankly, I think they missed the mark on this, and considering the fact that thousands upon thousands of fans came up with their own concept of the Universal Championship, all of which looked better, by the way, I think they could have done a much better job. All right, number 4. Colors have meaning. Going over to the SmackDown side of things, if the lollipop red title wasn't bad enough, now all of a sudden we've got blue and silver championship tag team belts. I've never been a fan of the bronze tag team titles over on Raw. To begin with, I was never a fan of those. They look like pennies to me. But now they've got silver ones over on SmackDown, and come on, I mean, we're like only a week away, or a week after the Olympics, and you can't tell me that there's not a little bit of significance there with the bronze and the silver. I mean, these championships have been so devalued, and now all of a sudden you've cut them in half, and now they're diluted even more so than they were. And I'm sorry, when you put them next to each other and you've got bronze and silver, that's going to mean something, and it doesn't boast well for the New Day, who suddenly have what could be considered to be third place in the company. Now, to be fair, they are putting a good emphasis on tag team, on the tag team division here as of late, but I don't think these championships are doing anyone any favors. Coming in at number 3, talking about the women's division taking 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. At WrestleMania, I was so shocked, honored, surprised, and very encouraged when they announced and revealed the new women's championship. They got away from the bra and panty matches, and they concentrated solely on women's wrestling, and they made that belt look just like the guy's belt. And I think it made a big statement for the company, and everyone was very excited. Now, all of a sudden, it comes in 2 flavors, and you've completely again, you're going to hear a theme here. Devalue these championships, and all of a sudden you've got a red one, and you've got a blue one, and if ECW came back, you'd have a purple one, and it just, I mean, obviously, the Raw, the original Women's Championship is going to be the flagship one. You've got Bayley over there, Charlotte, and Sasha Banks, and this other one may as well be considered the Cruiserweight Championship of the women's division. And it's very unfortunate and sad for the gals on SmackDown who are doing just as good of a job as the ones on Raw who have to deal with an inferior belt. Number 2. Who is the man? I realize Balor's not the champion right now. I'm just going to put that photo up there because he was crowned the first one. But now all of a sudden you have 2 championships again after we went through the painstaking job of getting it back to 1. And it was a big deal when we got rid of the World Heavyweight Championship belt and created this new one man who is the man. And it made sense. And now all of a sudden you've got 2 guys who are the man. But which one overshines the other? You could have originally said that Raw was going to be still the flagship show and they were going to have the major title, but now they've got this red blob around whoever the champion is going to be's waist, and SmackDown has the more legitimate looking title. And you know, from an outsider's perspective looking in, for someone who's not a wrestling fan, they could ask themselves, well, which one of these guys is your top guy? Which one is the face that runs the place? And I always try to go into my rants with a little bit of what I would have done. And guys, I always go back to, I think when we did the brand split and we did the draft, we should have had one champion, both women and men, who traveled back and forth. You couldn't tell me that Brock Lesnar versus Randy Orton, even though it was a terrible match, it wasn't billed as a main event. That could easily be the main event for a pay-per-view that just didn't happen to have the championship on the line that night. You know, so say Dean Ambrose is the champion on SmackDown, but he's over on Raw going up against Finn Balor or going up against Kevin Owens for the title. So that leaves SmackDown without a championship. Well, so what? You've got Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar. That would have put butts in the seats. AJ Styles versus John Cena, which was arguably the best match of SummerSlam, could have been a main event match at a pay-per-view without having the championship up for grabs. Or, heaven forbid, we put the women's championship in the main event at one of our pay-per-views. So I think that this just causes confusion on top of an already confusing era with this brand split. All right, number 1's not going to shock you by any means. It is the theme of the day, devalued titles. The more you throw into the equation, the less important and valuable these titles become. The championship used to be the most coveted thing you could ever want. And I'll be very honest with you, as ecstatic as I would be if I were a wrestler, if they handed me that red championship as my first real WWE belt, I would be a little disappointed. It just doesn't have the same feeling as when Stone Cold won the title for the time, or when Bret did, or when Shawn Michaels did. If you had handed Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart a rainbow title, I don't think it would have had as much of an impact. And I think that it's not too late, that we can't get rid of a couple of these championships. Maybe a little embarrassing for WWE, but you know, it's better that than to roll into some of these pay-per-views with now 6 or 7 major championships, which are supposedly supposed to be just as valuable as the next. But hey, that's just my opinion. It's just my rant. Let me know what you think. Drop some comments, hit some like buttons if you enjoy my opinion, and I will always come back and talk to you soon with more hot topics. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.